Welcome back to another episode. It is prediction time for the 2024 regular season. I did one of these at the beginning of the offseason, so we're also going to kind of take a look at what my predictions were there and kind of how those worked out, which some good in there, but basically missed on all of them. Um, so also not going to touch on it as much on this episode. We'll probably talk about it more when we do the next one, which I'm going to talk more about the 26-man roster and things like that. But there was a Bob Melvin interview that was on KNBR this morning where he discussed it sounds like Austin Slater is likely to not start the season on the roster. He'll be on the IL in some capacity. Now, what level? Who knows? It sounds like he had a setback with his elbow and isn't going to be ready to go right away. He is DHing in the game today, so I wonder if it's like he just can't throw or anything like that yet. So, we'll kind of see how that plans out. I could easily see him going on the 60-day IL, gives Matos a long runway, and opens up also a roster spot, but we'll kind of touch on that next time, as well as Melvin mentioned that he is not ready to give Ahmed the starting job yet, because as you guys have all probably noticed, Marco Luciano has heated up for about the last week and a half and is playing really well and is showing that he's not necessarily overmatched against major league pitching like everyone overreacted to for the first week and a half. So it's another thing to just kind of keep your eyes on. But we'll start off really quick. We're going to start with what my predictions were. I'm going to run through these pretty quick. My predictions were that two of the Yaz, Slater, Haniger, and Conforto group gets traded. They did trade one. They traded Mitch Haniger, who, funny enough, I thought was going to be the hardest of all of them to move. Though with the Slater injury, there's still a possibility that one of the other two gets moved, but I thought it would be done in the offseason. I said JD Davis would get traded at the deadline, not during the offseason. Well, they signed Chapman and they DFA'd him, as we all know. So he did end up off the roster eventually, but now this is the big miss for me. I thought either Kyle Harrison or Carson Whisenhunt was going to get traded. I thought Farhan was going to end up making a big, bold trade this offseason to try and get a bat. Obviously, that didn't happen. Harrison's going to be the number. He's going to be starting the second game of the season, and Whisenhunt, they're as high as ever on, and I'm totally fine with that because I think he's going to be a stud also. And then Giants finally land an international star and signed both Yamamoto and Lee. I get a half a point because they signed Lee. So they did get that international star. I was right there. I thought they would finally do it, especially with Lee. I thought it was going to happen for sure. But now kind of moving on to this season's, the in-season regular season predictions. I have three of them that I'm going to go through. And two are kind of like two parts to them. So the first one is, I think two Giants are going to get Rookie of the Year votes with Jung-Hoo Lee and Kyle Harrison. And I think Kyle Harrison is going to win Rookie of the Year over guys like Lee and Yamamoto and a lot of the heralded prospects around the league. Last season, he showed his potential. Everyone's super high on Kyle Harrison. He's come into spring training and he's shown just kind of the full bag of what he can be, the control issues, but also the strikeouts. He's been almost unhittable at times. I think he is going to end up having just a phenomenal season. I'm not putting any kind of numbers out there specifically, but I do think it'll be kind of a, lower 3 ERA, maybe kind of similar to what Senga did last season, low 3 ERA although I think he actually was in the high 2s, but 150 to 170 innings and a ton of strikeouts. And I could see him getting 200 strikeouts on only 150 innings. So I think Harrison's going to win it. There's an added wrinkle to that. If Kyle Harrison does win it, because he is a true rookie and he's on multiple of the top 100 lists, he actually is qualified for the Giants to receive the prospect performance incentive, where if he wins Rookie of the Year, they will actually get a comp pick at the end of the first round in the 2025 draft. So obviously the Orioles and Diamondbacks got those this past season because of Corbin Carroll and I think it was Gunnar Henderson winning the rookie of the year last season. So that is kind of an added wrinkle to this. It's part of why I think they're not as concerned with losing some draft picks. Obviously, it wouldn't help them until 2025. And then that pick could potentially get poached if they sign a guy with a qualifying offer, because they would lose their second and fifth draft picks if they sign a guy with a qualifying offer now that they're in the competitive balance tax. So it is something to just be mindful of. But I also think Jung-Hoo Lee is going to get votes, but I have Harrison ultimately winning that. Prediction number 2. The Giants are going to end their drought on both 30 home run and 30 stolen base players this season. The 30 home run one, to me, I think Soler, especially as a DH full time, not having to play the field much. Hopefully it keeps him healthy, and no park is going to really like impact him when you're hitting it 20, 30 rows up. So I think Jorge Soler is going to be he's going to clear the 30 home run drought, which obviously has been the case since Bonds hit 48 in 2004. I also think the 30 stolen base drought is going to end. There's a couple guys that I think could do it. Number 1 is Thairo Estrada, who stole 23 last season in 120 games. If he stays healthy, I could see him do it. Also, the other guy is going to be Tyler Fitzgerald, who I think is going to get a lot of opportunities to, if he does end up being the utility guy, which now the shortstop job seems a little more up in the air than it did a week ago. A week ago, it seemed pretty set that it was probably going to be Ahmed and then Fitz being the utility guy. Now there's a chance Luciano does to end up taking that job. But if Fitz does end up staying on the roster, I mean, he had like the 6th highest sprint speed. He stole 32 out of 35 bags across 3 levels last season. And I could see he's going to get starts, obviously, but I could also see him being a late inning pinch runner. And he's going to have the green light. So I think his role is going to kind of dictate that he's going to have a lot of attempts if he does end up on the team. So I think one of Thairo or Fitzgerald are going to end up being the guys that break that drought and get 30 stolen bases as well. Which obviously hasn't been done since Dave Roberts, of all people, in 2007. So you guys have all probably heard me on that one, where I think that's actually more pathetic than the home run drought, because there's no excuse to not have speed on the roster for 17 years. So that is my second prediction. And then the third one, this is kind of my bold prediction. The other two, I felt, they're kind of bold, but I felt like they're both way more reasonable. My third prediction is the Giants are going to win 90 games. They're going to be the first wild card team. Gives them a home series. So they'll be the 4 seed. Gives them a home wild card series, a 3-game series at Oracle, which they will win, and they will play the Dodgers in the divisional round. That is as far as I'm going to go. I'm not going to say if they're going to beat the Dodgers or anything like that, but I think they're going to get their shot versus LA in October. And, we'll see what happens. But I think with their pitching, their defense is improved. The offense still has some question marks, but I don't know how anybody can look at what they have in the lineup now and actually think that they're worse than last season offensively. And they just feel top to bottom on the roster like they've really improved. Now, how much and how it meshes, we'll see. But I mean, on top of all of the improvements they've done, and we've talked about it in previous episodes, I think one of the biggest ones that gets overlooked all the time is just the addition of Bob Melvin and the coaching staff, having guys like Melvin and Williams and Pat Burrell and all these guys that have been there and done that and know what it takes to be a winner and knows what it takes to be a championship team. You have guys like Brian Price, who's going to really bring the mindset of trying to get innings out of these guys. This is something that is getting overlooked by a lot of fans. And I think that as a whole, like a lot of Melvin teams have overperformed, so to speak, to their talent level. I know everyone wants to point to last season with San Diego, but I think that had a lot of issues that were kind of outside of Melvin's control too. I think you had too many personalities and too many kind of clubhouse cancer type players on one roster. I think it was just a poorly built roster as a whole. And there was also a lot of bad luck that got involved. I mean, they were 0 for the season in extra innings, and they lost a ton of 1-run games, even though they really, I mean, their bullpen wasn't great outside of Hader, but you looked at their roster and it didn't seem like that should have been the case. So, obviously Melvin deserves some blame, but it's not. I'm not going to weigh one season versus his 24 years as a manager, um, where his track record says that more often than not his teams will overperform. So those are my predictions. I want to hear what you guys have to say in the comments. Tell me what you guys think is going to happen this year. Um, and drop the predictions there. As always, if you like the content, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Appreciate all the support from everyone. We'll do the roster and roster probably breakdown here in the next couple of days, and also talk about the Bob Melvin interview. For those of you that want to see it, it's going to be on KNBR. They usually are really good about posting the interviews and stuff on there in case you missed them. So check it out, and you'll kind of see what Bob had to say about all this. But other than that, I'll talk to you guys later. Hope everyone has a great weekend, and until next time.